If you are a sports car reseller, you need to understand something. This business can be extremely risky. But after nearly 200,000 transactions, I have learned not just how to survive, but to thrive in this amazing hobby. And today, I'm going to share some of the biggest landmines that you're going to run into and how to make it through to the other side in one piece. Not one piece, the TCG, but like literally one piece. You get it. Let's dive in. Number one, these cards are not scarce resources. Oh boy, the magic word scarcity, here it comes. Scarcity may be the most overused word in this hobby. I mean, everyone uses it to justify prices and convince you that the card that they're selling is the last one that you're ever gonna see. But after walking through hundreds of collections, I can tell you with certainty, cards are everywhere. If you don't buy that one, there will probably be another one or something very similar. Autos, memorabilia, SSPs, parallels, refractors, case hits, there will always be more. Manufacturers can number a card to 5 or 10 or 15 and then produce 25 other parallels of the same player. And the reality is scarcity can matter, but scarcity without demand means nothing. So don't let the fear of missing out convince you that you're never gonna have the opportunity for another one. There will almost always be another card. Number two, you are on your own. Get used to it. I am hitting you with the most important realization really early here, and it's not necessarily pleasant. Here's the deal. No one else in this hobby cares about your success as much as you do. It's the truth. They just don't. And there's likely even people who want to see you fail because it makes them feel better about where they are. That sounds harsh, but the sooner you understand it, the better off you will be. Trust me. You control your decisions, your effort, how you're going to respond to failure, and what you do next. You are responsible for the outcome. Accept it. Once you stop waiting for someone else to carry you across the finish line, the experience in this hobby becomes a whole lot better. Number three, demand and attention control the market. If scarcity is overrated, and I believe it is, what actually controls prices? Well, I'll tell you, it's demand and attention. I mean, look at the 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. PSA has graded more than 130,000 copies. It is not scarce, yet it continues to command real money because Griffey is beloved, the card is iconic, and almost every collector from that era recognizes it. The supply is enormous, but the attention is even bigger. Meanwhile, a card numbered to 5 can sit on eBay for years because nobody cares. Demand can overpower supply, and the people who consistently do well understand where attention is moving and they get there early. So study what collectors are watching, what they're discussing, what they're buying, and you'll be way ahead. Number 4, your reputation is worth a lot. If you expect to jump into the hobby in 26 or 27 and not take your reputation seriously, you are in for a rude awakening. Long-term survival is directly connected to building a reputation people trust. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You may ship the wrong card. You may overlook a condition issue. You may handle something poorly. The question isn't whether you'll ever make a mistake. The question is what you'll do after it happens. You take responsibility. Do you communicate? Do you solve the problem and treat the customer fairly? When people trust you, they buy faster. They spend more. They recommend you. They bring you connections. A great reputation takes years to build, and one terrible decision to damage it. So protect it. Number 5, the system that you build is your differentiator. Anybody can get lucky for a weekend. Anybody can stumble into a great collection or complete a few profitable transactions. That stuff, it's table stakes. The people who survive in this hobby build systems that last. They got buying, they got intake, they got sorting, they got inventory, they got listing, they got pricing, the shipping, the customer service, the bookkeeping, all of it. You need something repeatable. If every day for you feels like you're starting over, you don't have a business yet. You have a collection of transactions. A real system reduces mistakes. It creates that consistency for your business, and it helps you process more inventory. Your inventory will change, guaranteed. Platforms will probably change for you, and the market is absolutely going to change. We'll talk about that. But a great system gives you something stable underneath all of it. Number 6, most of these players will fail. This means most prospect purchases will eventually decrease in value. Do you actually know the chances that the prospect or draft pick that you're buying becomes a true star? I mean, the odds are incredibly small. The typical NBA draft produces only about 6 eventual all-stars out of roughly 60 picks. In baseball, one study found that only 17% of drafted and signed players ever even reached the major leagues, not just become stars, not even made an all-star team. They simply appeared in the majors. And in the NFL, a recent analysis found that only around 9% of drafted players became Pro Bowlers, with roughly 4% of them earning all-pro recognition. The truth is, across every major sport, most players being chased today will never become the stars collectors hope they'll become. The hobby prices young players on what they could become, but eventually it prices them on what they actually became. That transition between the two can be brutal, so understand the odds. Number 7 is you're gonna fail a lot, but your job is to manage the losses. You are going to make bad decisions. Products are gonna flop. Players will fail. You will miss condition issues. Shipments will get lost. Someone's gonna file a chargeback or try to scam you. It happens to everyone. The people who survive in the hobby aren't the people who never fail. They are just the ones that have learned to minimize the damage. Don't put your entire bankroll into one player. Leave room for condition problems. Don't spend every dollar assuming everything's gonna sell immediately. And don't risk your reputation to win one argument. Take small losses quickly, learn from them, and fix the process that caused them. Just keep moving. Your success will often be determined less by how often you're right, but more by how much damage you allow when you're actually wrong. Number 8, the house always wins. Every sealed product is designed and priced to make money for the company producing it. Manufacturers and breakers market the possibility of life-changing hits. They do. They show you that superfractor, the logo patch, the one-of-one autograph. They don't build the campaign around the other 99% of boxes. Why? Because possibility sells better than probability. Someone will hit a monster card, but across a large enough sample, the average person ripping wax will not recover what they spent. Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with opening a box for entertainment. It can be fun. I do it. But call it what it is. If you believe ripping wax is the safest path to a long-term reselling business, you're wrong. The house understands the math. Make sure you do too. Number 9, the cycles will create the best opportunities. I have been in the hobby for around 30 years and a hardcore reseller for nearly 20. There will always be cycles. Players move in and out of attention. Sports rotate. Vintage gets hot, then it cools off, and then it gets hot again. Modern basketball will run. Football takes over. Pokemon explodes. Grading demand rises and falls. You know the drill. We watched the hobby explode in 2020 and then 2021 and then correct. But money didn't disappear evenly. It rotated between categories and players and price points. Those valleys often create the biggest opportunities. When everyone runs towards one category, something else gets ignored. When sellers panic, disciplined buyers gain access to inventory, and that hobby slowing down means weak operators disappear and serious businesses gain market share. Another cycle is coming. I can guarantee it. Will you be ready? Number 10, don't listen to content creators. Wait, what? Yep. That's right. Don't blindly take a sports card tip from a random post on Twitter. You have to do your own research and develop your own convictions. I mean, a lot of advice is just simply wrong. It's outdated. Maybe it's loaded with undisclosed motives. Sometimes the person telling you to buy a card is already trying to sell it. But the bigger problem is that blindly following someone else prevents you from building your own confidence. You don't know why you bought, so you don't know when to sell. Look, there are amazing content creators in this hobby, and I've learned plenty from some of them. But listen to ideas, but don't outsource your decisions. Even with this video, test what I'm saying against your own experience. Build your own cold, hard conviction. Number 11, find your thing. If you keep getting at bats, you're eventually going to stumble into your lane. Your lane is where your strengths are optimized, your weaknesses are minimized, and the work is genuinely exciting to you. Maybe it's raw cards, maybe it's grading or singles or lots or sets or collections or quick flips or live selling or vintage baseball, modern basketball, 5-figure grills, you name it, there are 1,000 ways to operate here. But you shouldn't try to master all of them. Some people identify grading opportunities instantly. Others are incredible live sellers or can walk through 10,000 cards and understand the value better than anyone else. Try things. Pay attention to what works and what gives you energy, and then find your thing, and then just dump as much fuel into it as you can. Number 12, always be ready. Your home runs will come when you least expect them. The phone rings on a random Tuesday. A friend connects you to a family with a really cool collection. Somebody walks into your shop. A deal appears at a show while everyone else is distracted. You need to be financially and mentally ready to move at all times. If all your money is constantly tied up in slow inventory, you can't buy the craziness. If your warehouse is disorganized and listings are months behind, the opportunity may just feel like another problem. So maintain buying power, build those relationships, and know how quickly you can move. The deals that change your business rarely arrive according to your schedule. So always be ready. Number 13, the easiest path is always crowded. I mean, look, I don't like crowds. I never have. And that's good because the easiest path is always packed. Everybody wants to buy the obvious card at 70 or 80% of comps and sell it tomorrow. Everybody wants inventory already sorted and priced and graded and ready to list. Everybody wants the deal without the mess. But the best opportunities often require doing what others won't do. Can you travel to the collection? Can you sort through 50,000 cards? Can you learn a category that nobody else understands? Can you follow up with the seller for 2 years? Do the work when the payoff isn't immediate. Go do the things that nobody else is willing to do. That's where you unlock the real business. And the best part, it's not crowded. Number 14, track everything. Don't run your business on gut feelings. I mean, know your gosh darn numbers, guys. How much did you actually make last month? Not sell, but make. Which purchases created the most profit? Which inventory sold fastest? What did grading fees and labor and returns and promotions cost you? Which channel gives you the best margins? How much inventory is more than 6 months old? Revenue can make you feel successful while your bank account tells you a different story. What gets measured, guys, often gets improved. Now, I'm not going to pitch you on Resell Pulse because I do that in every video, but if I did, I would tell you that it's the best $19 that you'll spend every single month and it unlocks all of these metrics. But I'm not going to do that. So let's move on. Number 15, don't listen to the noise. If you want to succeed in this space, decide that you're going to do what it takes and then just block out the noise. Put your hands over your ears. See, isn't that nice? People will question your prices, your strategy, your content, your business model, and your purchases. And some criticism is useful, but most of it is not. Learn the difference between feedback that helps and the noise that only wants your attention. You do not need to respond to everything or defend your every decision. You got to learn to trust your instincts, trust certain people, study the results, and adjust when necessary. And then just keep going. Number 16, do not hire anyone until you have no choice. Here's the test. Does your business consistently have at least 80 hours of real, profitable work that needs to be completed each week? Not scrolling eBay, not reorganizing the same shelf. I mean like actual sorting, scanning, listing, shipping, bookkeeping, customer service, and inventory intake. If there is not enough work for you and another person, you're probably not ready. Hiring because you're tired is not a business plan. Hiring without a repeatable process just gives you another person to manage. Build the system first. Make sure the profits can support payroll consistently, because a great employee can unlock your business, but a premature hire can bury it. Number 17, understand why sales channels exist. I mean, eBay, Whatnot, eBay Live, My Card Post, Facebook Marketplace, card shows, your own website, they all reach different customers. The person searching eBay for one exact card may not be the person watching a live stream for entertainment and community. Understand each platform's buyer and then reverse engineer your approach. What inventory and price point worked? Are buyers looking for convenience or selection? Are they looking for community? Are they looking for the lowest price? I'm convinced most resellers should focus on 2 primary channels and become excellent at both. You can maintain a presence everywhere, but spreading yourself across 6 platforms often means that you're mediocre on all of them. I also believe one channel should eventually involve live selling. I mean, not just for volume, but because of the community that live selling creates. It's pretty unique. Number 18. Brand is community. Most people think that brand means a logo, like a color scheme or a clever name, but it goes so much deeper. Brand is community. It's a name people want to associate with in a place where they want to belong. So ask yourself, would this buyer tell someone else about what we're building? Would they wear the shirt? Would they invite a friend? Would they recommend your store or tell another collector that they trust you? A logo helps people recognize you, but the community you create gives them a reason to care. When people start bringing others into your community without being asked, that's when you've built something that's real. It's a real brand at that point. Good for you. Number 19, don't flip everything. Now, this has been a personal evolution for me over the past 4 or 5 years. I believe you become more invested in meaningful deals when you keep at least one substantial item from every collection that you buy. Choose something representing the collection. Maybe it's the person, the trip, the story, and then track it every 6 to 12 months. It keeps you connected to why people love the hobby, and it teaches you about ownership, market cycles, and the changing demand of certain cards. When everything is just inventory, it's easy to lose that connection. Sell most of it. Don't get me wrong, sell most of it, but you don't have to sell everything. And number 20, buy into rookie classes. One of the best times to make a significant but controlled bet is when a rookie or draft class has the potential to be generational. The mistake is putting everything into one player. Most prospects fail, like we talked about, and even professional scouts get these evaluations wrong. Instead, spread your risk across the strongest players, buy multiple names, choose the right cards, watch your entry prices, and give the class time to develop. And when I say bet the house, I do not mean literally bet your house. I mean manage the risk, but when a truly exceptional class arrives, it creates a massive wave of attention. 1 or 2 players become generational talents. It can change your inventory and your business. You don't always have to predict the exact winner. Sometimes you can just buy the entire race. Number 21. Wait, you want more of these? Look, I wrote down 30 lessons for this video, but if I covered all 30, we'd be here for too long. So I pulled my favorite 20 for YouTube and I put the other 10 for all the free email subscribers. You can click the link below to join and get those other 10 tips right now. Sports cards are amazing. This hobby is spectacular. And look, if you want to build a real business and a brand, the opportunity is there. Now, it's not going to be easy like we talked about. Nobody will do the work for you. You're going to make plenty of mistakes. So go get it done. Oh, and if you want to go watch our last collection purchase up in Detroit, click this link right here and enjoy the video. Take care.